I'm Tammy, a brown belt and coach from the UK. I joined Premium with the free 7-day trial about a year ago, and I haven't regretted that once. I immediately binged on some audio content. The Discord server's worth the cost of membership alone. It's a bit like entering a virtual open mat full of white to black belts from various countries, and the vibe's always friendly and respectful and helpful. I highly recommend joining BJJ Mental Models Premium, and I look forward to chatting with you in their Discord server.
Those are some words from Tammy. She's one of hundreds of grapplers around the world who have leveled up their jiu-jitsu game with BJJ Mental Models Premium. Join Premium today and you'll get the world's largest library of jiu-jitsu audio courses on strategy and tactics, plus direct coaching from black belt world champions, plus access to the most valuable online jiu-jitsu community. Your first week's free, so please check it out now at bjjmentalmodels.com or check the link in the show notes. Hey, welcome to BJJ Mental Models, episode 261. I'm Steve Kwan. BJJ Mental Models is your guide to a conceptual and intelligent jiu-jitsu approach. And today, I'm here with the big man himself, Mr. Victor Hugo. Victor, how is it going, my friend? It's great to finally chat.
Thank you, Steve, for the invite. I've been actually watching a couple episodes for a while now. I love what you have, going on here. Different perspectives about different things. Jiu-Jitsu, I believe, I always like to say that Jiu-Jitsu is endless, that it's so much you can learn. And I think you do it well here in your platform. You bring people to talk about different stuff. And it's just like a really good learning tool for anyone in Jiu-Jitsu. But life is great, preparing myself to my first and also the last fight of the first no-gi match of the year. And then my last one this year. And yeah, it's good, training hard, but, this is what I love to do, that's what I live for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have had a year that is probably, I'd say you've got more done in the last year than most people will get done in their entire careers. And I just can't wait to see what you do next. But what we talk about today, I think is going to touch on that. You had a topic that was fresh in your mind, and I think it's very appropriate. And that's kind of how you balance all of these things. When you've got a jiu-jitsu career, when you're competing at the absolute highest levels, when you're trying to build out jiu-jitsu products, you've got a lot of things on the go. Most people would struggle to do one of those things well. You've done all of them well. And so I guess this is as good a time as any. I'll turn the mic over to you. Tell me about it. Tell me what you've been working on and how do you put all of these pieces together and do it all at once?
Yeah. So, this year kind of like, as far as like competitively, I was kind of like scared at first because whenever I first started this year, I got like a bad, I got sick, kind of like an infection right in January, right whenever like everyone starts training hard. And I was out of training for probably like 14 days because I had to go on antibiotics and stuff. And I was like, man, what a way to start the year. So then I lost those like 2.5 weeks of training, go back to training, you know how the competitor mentality is. I'm like, I'm behind. I have to start training hard now. So second day of training, I did a lot of pushing, like I did conditioning. I was walking into my third session of the day. Some of that is very unusual. I like to watch how I train. Sometimes I want to train more than I should. But, if I train more than I should now, probably I won't be able to make the whole week like healthy. So that's what happened. I ended up like straining my MCL on the same right after getting sick. And that was more like, I believe like more 3 weeks without training hard. So I started the year without 5 weeks of training. So I was like, man, what's 2022 is going to be like for me? The start of the year was rough already. But, I think positive mindset, having a good attitude is really important. It's something that I always tend to, focus on, and it worked out great. Probably the best year of my career so far. I was able to accomplish great things. And I think like starting behind at the beginning of the year kind of like built my mentality for it, A couple curiosities here. I don't think a lot of people know, like on this past year, which is also related to where I'm having the most improvements. I also started my business, I own a school in Austin, Texas. We have a beginners program, we have kids program, So doing those two things, I think it kind of puts me in a certain mood for having like discipline, changing habits, being more productive. And I think one helped another. I think that's a big kind of like, how can I explain? It's kind of like a monster for competitors. Like, I don't want to teach. I don't want to do this because I want to focus on my competition career. But, I have a really good friend, Steve Hargett. He's my business partner, kind of like on my mentor too, Shaji. They all supported me on that decision and it's been going great so far. I feel like my day, it's being very productive, Sometimes I do training. I train for 2 hours. I might end up like losing the training. I don't even have time to think about that as much. Like I have to go do stuff right away. Of course, I like to keep studying. I like to keep improving, but like I believe I'm always on the go. So I'm always being productive and stuff. So I think that kind of helps in my mindset a little bit.
That's amazing. Now, how does the time split work? Those are a lot of things to do at once. For those who don't know, I mean, I follow you on social, so I see it, but you're releasing a lot of new content coming up, and we'll get into that in a bit. But I didn't realize that you also run a growing and thriving school as well, in addition to being, again, one of the best competitors this year, especially after getting off to such a bad start as you brought up. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. First of all, I love that message about being resilient and looking at a setback as an opportunity to step it up. Because, I mean, so many people, they have a bad week and it just breaks them and they struggle to get back on track. But having that resilient mindset where you can just bounce back, it's so powerful. And like you said, I can only imagine that helps on the business side of things as well. How do you split your time here? I mean, many people would be spending 8 hours a day, every day in the gym, just training. You're able to succeed at the highest levels while also growing multiple different business streams. And you're still quite young too. So how does your schedule look? How do you balance all of this?
That's one of the things that I had to, get better at, time management, like having like a training routine, train a certain time, practice starts at 9. We're there at night training, I think like a lot of times we're going to be injured, we're going to be not injured, we're going to be sore and stuff, like, let's like go lay back. So, time management, I have great mentors, I also like to ask a lot of questions. I don't shy away from asking questions. I think like in my whole career here in the US training, I always had a big, friendship with most of my friends. They're masters. So they're like over 30, and they always like give me words like of wisdom. Of course, as a younger guy, I'm like, man, you guys only talk about this stuff. This is kind of boring. But, like at the beginning, there's a little bit of resistance towards it. But after a while, I've been here for 7 years, like, man, that makes total sense. And that was a couple times in my life, actually after getting the black belt, that it made me rethink more and more about those things. One of them being that I got really bad injured in 2021, like end of 2020 and beginning of 2021. I got a really bad injury on my lower back, It wasn't anything like surgery related, but it was very limiting, And if you know my jiu-jitsu, it's all about unlimited. Like I'm a big guy, I'm 260. I'm 6'4", and I invert, I attack legs, I do all sort of crazy things. I do cartwheels and everything. So having that injury kind of limited me, And whenever I couldn't train, I couldn't do the things that I like, the way I was used to, it made me really think like, man, what happens if I can't fight anymore? Like, what do I have built so far? Do I have any other sorts of income that I can like trust on if I get hurt? What am I building? Still, I'm chasing this dream of, become a successful athlete. What am I building on the side? So kind of like having friends, have good mentors help me, open my eyes for that. And I think like the main thing for me is like time management, A day for me usually looks like I wake up, eat breakfast, and I go to train in the morning, get my train done in the morning, and go back home, have lunch, and then maybe a small break, and then I have conditioning. And then after conditioning, another small break for a snack, and then boom, I'm on teaching, So I think time management, make sure that I make the right decisions throughout my week, If on my Sunday I make a bad decision of not meal prep or maybe not going to the store, man, that's going to take a huge toll on my week by Tuesday or by Wednesday. Now I have to rush to do things. So I think taking the right decisions whenever, make sure that you like make a good use of your time is important. That's the thing that I've improved the most, It's crazy to think that way because whenever I'm traveling, I have this schedule. And it kind of feels weird for me to not be on a schedule. I'm like, oh man, like on my mind, I would be teaching already. I would be doing this and that. So I think like time management is a big thing. I know that's kind of like cliche. Everyone talks about that, but it made a lot of sense to me as soon as I start filling up my schedule,
Yeah, I think that makes all the sense in the world. And to your point, that's something people just don't talk about in jiu-jitsu. I have had so many instructors teach me how to stay calm under pressure and how to drill better and how to work on different techniques. But I've never had an instructor sit me down and say, Steve, there's only 24 hours in a day. Here's how you make the most use of them. And if you're just a competitive athlete, if that's the only thing you're doing, you can probably get away with being a bit sloppy on time management because you've just got one thing going on. But you brought up a great point, which is just the power and the freedom that comes with having options. When you are a successful competitor and a successful business owner and a successful product maker, that's a lot of different things that you can do. There's a lot of different ways that you can succeed. And that also means there's less ways that you can fail. And that gives you confidence that you can go into anything because you know you're going to be okay no matter what. I empathize very much with people who are full-time competitors who only do that because they put so much pressure on themselves because they know if they don't perform well, that could be the end of their career, right? If they get injured, that could be the end of their career. And that gives people a lot of fear and a lot of stress, and it can break you mentally. But if you can go into this and you can know, look, no matter what happens, I've got a successful gym, I'm making product, my money's coming in. If competition ended today, if I had a catastrophic injury and I had to stop, I'm still going to be successful at my goals of advancing jiu-jitsu and taking care of myself. That is such a powerful thing. And I think people don't talk about that enough. So it's so cool to hear you talking about this here.
Yeah, exactly. And for sure, I didn't think that way whenever it was just like a purple or brown belt. All I wanted to do was just like compete as much as I could, win as much as I could. But as I was, I was never the guy that someone would ask me, what's your dream? I would say my main dream would be to become a black belt world champion. I never thought of that as my last thing, like, oh, I got that, I'm done. Like for me, it was more like that's a goal. It's a dream, of course, but it's a goal. I'm going to achieve that one day. But even though when I achieve, what is going to happen after? I always made myself that question, I always make myself that question, look at other people that you should think that way. I'm like, that guy said that his dream is to become a black belt world champion. What happens whenever he wins? He's just going to go back to win the second one, but on the other parts of life, what are you doing? Like, what are the things that are like, also give you that fulfilling energy? Because a title and a medal, they're only going to fulfill so much. So if you're not doing things that is going to feel like they're fulfilled, I don't think that whenever you achieve that thing, you're going to feel as complete, if it makes sense, So nowadays, as you said, I'm involved in such different things that I'm consistently, like having small wins that are very fulfilling. And going back to the competition thing, I think having the peace of mind that I'm not really relying on this paycheck to pay my rent and to pay for my supplements, like it's a big thing, like I can come here, I lose or winning, I'm going to go back. I have my trainers, I have my mentors, I have my training partners, I have my school, I have my family to go back to, and everything is great, Of course, they kind of like think, oh, so you don't care about it? No, I care a lot. That's why I'm here still. That's why I bring passion to this. And that's why I push myself every day. I think one thing completes another. And it's been great, finding, I think this last year I was able to find that piece, that I was missing. Having both of those things pushing myself is great, And also one thing that I believe that happened is made me connect myself with really interesting people. As they see my mindset, they see how I am. I'm just 26 years old. So they get very impressed on how I'm doing things. And guess what? It just helped me more because now I can I have access to ask questions to these people that are really successful in different areas. It's just very cool for me to be in this position.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The big benefit to having a successful business, whether it be a gym or content streams or however you do it, is you get to meet so many interesting people. That's why I love doing this show. I get to meet so many cool people like you that I would never get a chance to talk to otherwise. And you can learn so many things from people who have succeeded at the highest levels. People come in with different perspectives, different opinions. I mean, I know people who take a different approach. Some people will say, if you really want something, you've got to sacrifice everything else and focus 100% on one thing. And I mean, you can make that work. I know people who have. But I also think it's great to have a lot of things going on in your life so that you're not just dependent on one thing. And again, you brought up just the brilliance of having all of these different streams in your life happening. They start to at some point benefit each other. You can, through your competition success, you can use that to build your business. Through your business, you can meet new potential people who can help your jiu-jitsu game. It's kind of like a feedback loop. Just everything gets better and just constantly improves. You wouldn't have any of those benefits if you were only competing and just only in the gym training every single day. So I think what you're talking about here is a great case study for why it's important to have a balanced life and to have a lot of things going on. So you're not just a one-dimensional individual.
Yeah. And that goes for jiu-jitsu too. Like growing up and watching the heavyweights fight, I always thought that, not all of them, but the majority would always be very one-dimensional fighting. Oh, I'm good at passing the guard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand for 9 minutes, trying to push each other, try to put you on your back. If it doesn't work, I'll probably win a decision because I pushed you more. Like, I never was really a big fan of one-dimensional thinking. So for me, like, man, why are you not pulling guard? Why are you maybe trying to beat him bolo? The guy's really stiff. Why are you not trying to just sweep him? Like, what's the simplest ways for you to get to where you want to get? So I think that way, in many different parts of my life and even on training or coaching, whenever I think like my training, my coaching, I involve different types of like styles. I like to drill. I really like to play games too during my coaching, during my training. So that multidimensional thinking goes beyond the jiu-jitsu or, like the decisions, I think is a big part of my life, and being consistent at the same point, at the same time.
Yeah. Mutual friend of ours, Kabir Bath, once said that one of the things that was fascinating about you is your ability to blend all of these different things that most people don't blend. I mean, you don't see a lot of heavyweights doing barambolos or trying to pull guard, right? And the fact that you can pull that out of your hat can be a massive surprise. It can make it very hard for people to pin down exactly what you're going to do. So again, I think just kind of a strong argument for balance and diversity and having an open mind and not just trying to, kind of go down the path that everyone else has gone down or that people expect you to go down. People say big guys can't do barambolos. Well, you're living proof that that's not true.
Yep. And yeah, I think you're going to have to sacrifice some things. I sacrificed a lot back in 2016, moving from Brazil to America, Many times I thought about going back because, of course, I wasn't living great there, but I was doing college. I was living with my mom and my dad. So I was kind of comfortable. And then I moved to America and all of a sudden I'm like, couch surfing. I'm trying to find a place where I can stay. I can't eat the food that I grew up eating. I have to learn all those things. So there was a little bit of sacrifice, but I knew one day it would pay off. Like I started the gym, I couldn't even coach because how am I going to coach if I don't even speak English? So I think like looking in the mirror, like, oh man, I can't do those things. And what can I do to eventually be good at them or improve myself and like be actually, at least okay at them. So it was a big battle, and I think one thing helped others, a lot of times what you said about people being very undimensional, I like to talk with like youngers now. Even though I'm very young, there's people that are coming, behind me, the call belts and stuff. I'm like, man, you have to learn English. You have to think about if you want to be a kids coach, you have to start studying how to be a kids coach. If you want to be an adults coach, the fact that you're really good at this doesn't even mean that you're going to transcend to a great coach right away. What do you study? Like, can you explain a technique? How strong is your concept? Can you teach the person what you want to teach or what they need? I think like many things that you can consistently be working on. And that's what I try to do nowadays. I don't think I have mastered anything. I'm just consistently thinking about, how can I do this better? How can I explain this better? And I think just like you said, it loops back to helping me being good at different things,
Yeah, I don't think people understand exactly how hard it is to be a really good, well-developed jiu-jitsu coach. There are definitely a lot of jiu-jitsu coaches who probably don't put in the work. They just show up and show a few techniques and they don't really think much about it. I think we've all had coaches like that. But if you want to really be a top tier jiu-jitsu coach, the amount of study that you have to do to really understand all of the variables and all of the things you should or shouldn't do. I mean, there's a lot of complexity there that people probably don't see on the surface. When you walk in and you just, you see a coach teaching 5 kids jiu-jitsu, you don't think much of it, but you don't understand all of the research and planning and prep that went into that. You don't understand the collaboration that you had to have with other coaches to figure out what the best practices are. You have to follow the science, which is always evolving. You talked about kids classes. Oh man, managing kids classes, it's incredibly hard. I can't really think of a job that's harder than that. And there's a lot more rigor and prep and science and evidence behind that than people think. It's not like you just show up and you babysit. It's way more complex than that. And again, the thing is, like you said, if you are that person who takes the time to learn that stuff, man, you can change people's lives. You can really do amazing work. The relationship between a coach and their athlete, even if it's just a casual hobbyist, it very quickly grows into something beyond what you might expect when you first step on the mats for the first time. So hearing you talk about how you're taking that so seriously and you understand the importance of that is so cool, because most people at your age, they're not even thinking about this stuff, but here you're already well on your way.
And yeah, I think what you said there is really cool too, because it's just like jiu-jitsu, I believe, like running a kids class, you can make it as hard as you want, just like jiu-jitsu. Maybe let's talk about jiu-jitsu. Thinking of like kids class as a babysitting job, you could think of starting a half guard flat with the person with the other hook. You put yourself in a situation, so you're trying to make it really hard. But again, using the same vision for jiu-jitsu, what I can also do is look for information, looking for data. One person that you mentioned that has helped me a lot with my kids program was Kabir. He's been doing that for way longer than I have. So having people that you can ask questions that they can kind of like give you the perfect answer, I love that. Like sometimes I come up with those questions. It can be a jiu-jitsu related thing. It can be, a business related thing, it can be a kids program related thing, and then having that person that you trust and like, hey man, what do you think about this? And it's just the perfect answer, like you can feel it right away. So it's really cool, and I think networking is really important too. And one of the things that I think that people that I mean, like the guys that are doing the same thing that I am, have to understand is the ability to communicate. When I say communicate, not only communicate online, but actually in person. Can you talk to someone? What questions are you going to make? Are you going to make it a productive, or are you just going to be like pretty much like killing time? So I try to be productive in my time, whenever I meet someone, try to see, what can this person like? What do we have in mutual? Maybe you're successful in another area, but what do we have in mutual that maybe I can like learn from you? So I'm always thinking of something like that. Of course, as I said, I haven't mastered anything, but I'm just really open to learning. And if I see that the person is doing something good, I might be able to, see that and like, how can I use that on my jiu-jitsu, on my business life? I'll be more able to ask,
So one of the things about business, especially coaching, it's very much a service relationship. Your job as the coach is to serve the people on your team, to help them grow. It's a very giving role because it's all about the students. And a good coach makes tremendous sacrifices on behalf of their students. And that's very different psychologically from being a competitor. And I've heard people talk about this before where they say it can be very challenging to juggle high-level competition with running a business like a gym. Because when you're preparing for competition, you have to be selfish. You have to make it about you. You have to set hard boundaries, prioritize your training time. It's all about you. But then when you go to the gym to train and you're putting on your teacher or your coach hat, now it's not about you at all. You're the least important person in the room. It's about these 1 stripe, 0 stripe white belts who are just beginning their journey. They're the most important people. And a lot of people, man, they struggle to flip the switch, to go from one mindset to the other. I've heard Oliver Taza talk about this and just how, during the day he takes and during the night he gives, and he has to kind of balance those two roles. Do you struggle with that? Do you ever find sometimes that you're prepping for comp, but you're struggling because you just can't stop thinking about the kids that you're going to have to train 3 hours from now? Or maybe you're training with all of your students and you're trying to coach them, but you're distracted because you've got a big competition coming up and you're worried. You're thinking, man, all of this time I'm spending with my kids here and with my students, that's taken me away from my prep. Do you ever find that it's hard to kind of split those two mindsets together?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a thing, but I think you can think of it in many ways. Whenever I'm really into something like a big competition, something, I have people that I can rely on, can really trust, and they understand. Like my business partner is a big example, like if I ever need anything, like if I'm too tired, if I'm too mentally tired, I can tell them, hey man, I'm not good today, can you cover me and stuff? But for me, what is a big help is knowing that there is a bunch of people out there that they don't care and they don't know about your tournament. So that makes less of a big deal, and that takes the pressure off a little bit. So it's almost like I come out of my little world and now I'm the regular world. So this guy here has 1 stripe. He probably doesn't even know what ADCC is. He's just trying to figure out how to do a hip escape. So it kind of like takes away a little bit the pressure of me having to face this multi-time world champion in like 4 weeks. Because I'm not really thinking about this multi-time world champion. I'm thinking about how I'm going to figure out this hip escape for this, 1 stripe white belt. So it kind of like takes me away, makes almost like a hobby, like a distraction. And guess what? At the same time, I'm investing time on this 1 stripe white belt that maybe one day will help me big time with my immigration process. I don't know what this guy is doing, so it's just interesting. But I think I heard once George St. Pierre saying that on the day of his big fight, he just likes to go out on the street and walk and see people doing things and see how much of like a small deal your title match is. The world goes on, and that helps me a lot because that makes me put less pressure on myself and have more fun as competing, have more fun. See more the bright side of things. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's how I see of it. Of course, if I'm mentally tired, if I'm like, exhausted, I won't be there. But if I'm not there, it's probably because of the operation itself. Like we organize everything for that. But if I'm there, it's probably because I need it. I'm like, man, I need to teach this class. I need to spend time with the kids. They know I'm a world champion, but they're not really like aware of the seriousness of this thing. And they just want to have fun. And I'm having fun with them. So it kind of helps me a lot balancing it out, the vibe between competitor and just like Victor in a regular life.
That's a great point about how doing all of these different things, it gives you perspective and it makes you realize that there's a lot more to life than just this one thing. You're talking again about not being a one-dimensional human, and that's a great example. On our premium series, I did an awesome series of conversations with Rafael Lovato Jr., obviously someone that you know very well. And he talked about his forced retirement from MMA. And when he got the call from the doctor and he was told, you're never going to fight again. It's just not going to happen. And how devastated he was, but how he had to suck it up because in like an hour, he had a class he had to teach. And that was just such a powerful mindset shift for him because he was able to walk into this room and come in from this place of gratitude and helping students and realize that there's more to life than this, right? And he just talked about how he just felt so much love in that moment. And I mean, if he weren't a business owner, if he weren't a teacher, he wouldn't have that. And I think that's just such a beautiful story that talks about the importance of being a balanced person because it gives you perspective. You realize that life goes on. There's more than just this one thing. And of course, in his case, it's an amazing comeback story too, because he did return, but all the same, I just thought that was such an incredible story of perseverance and how having a balanced life can really help you overcome challenges that would just completely break a lot of people.
Yep. And I just imagine the mental fortitude that he didn't have to, poker face and go teach, like how much mentally that didn't take for him to be strong and, don't show how frustrated he was with that news and have to teach that class and probably gave a great class. I've been to his class a lot and I love to learn from him. And man, what a professional guy. And to have the mindset shift from that bad news to go teach a class, I think that takes a lot of strength on your mind too. And I think that's also what Jiu-Jitsu helps a lot with different people, talking to my students and stuff. They get way more patient and they're way more used to taking losses on a day because you literally go in and you're going to lose, like myself too. I think that's a great champion. He has to know how to deal with the losses, You can't make a big deal of it. Of course, you care about it. Everyone that is there cares about it. But for me, it's more like collecting data and see what I did wrong. What can I do better? And let's go. So mission going back to that beginning of the year, that was it for me, I had 5 weeks, almost like over a month without training. But I kept consistently thinking man, as soon as I go back, how can I get, in shape quicker? And what are the things that I can get better? How can I shape my game to something that I can be ready in 2 months to compete at highest level? So, I think Jiu-Jitsu gives you the mindset of you got swept. All right, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to turn your back and give mount? Or are you going to make your grips and sweep back? So I think the Jiu-Jitsu mindset helps that a little bit. You know that you're going to lose at some point, but it's your decision to fight back or just be there, lay down and accept your fate. So I think that helps you a lot in life. That
is the beauty of jiu-jitsu is it gives regular people just an opportunity to face a lot of adversity and kind of learn to compartmentalize and live in the moment. You bring up a great point. If someone takes me down and passes my guard, I mean, yeah, that really sucks. I don't like it, but I don't have a lot of time to dwell on it because the fight's not over yet. Right now, I got to worry about restoring position and not getting tapped. And so the thing I love about jiu-jitsu is it's kind of like an alternative to meditation for a lot of people, I think, because you're forced to live in the present moment and to think about the challenge you're dealing with right now. Because you don't have a lot of a choice because someone is trying to choke you unconscious, right? Or break your arm. So, man, if you ever want to be forced into the present moment, the best way to do that is to have someone try to beat you up because you can't really think about anything else at that time. And I think, again, that's a great example there that you bring up about how we all learn to compartmentalize and put the past behind us, not stress too much about what's already happened and focus on the path forward.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not going to say this is an advice, but on those days that I had the most things to worry about, I was worried about different things. I was kind of stressed. Those days, whenever I went to train, that was probably the best trains that I had, I'm not saying performance-wise. I'm not saying that I did everything I could, but it was just so great to kind of zone out a little bit and just think about jiu-jitsu, just think about how I'm going to fix this position, be there, be present during drilling, during the whole training. And man, it was great. After the training, I felt great. I felt I had all those things to get done. But still, I felt refreshed. That's also something that aligns with what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, something that you've also brought up a few times here, which I think is worth unpacking. You've talked many times about the importance of asking for help. So you brought up a great example of when you're having an off day or something else has come up and you need to rely on your business partner to help out at the gym. And that is something that a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes, they really struggle with is asking for help. And I understand it. It's an individual sport. It's a competition. And Jiu-Jitsu people tend to be very self-sufficient. They don't like to rely on other people. It's important to be self-sufficient, but that can also be limiting to some point because there's only so much that one person can do by themselves. No matter how great they are, we're all limited by the same 24 hours in a day. There's only so much we can do. Talk to me a little bit about leaning on the people around you and how you've kind of built up that network, because that is one of the most interesting things about your story is how willing you are to invite other people into your circle and lean on them and let them lean on you as well when they need help too.
Yeah. Going back to, talk about how Jiu-Jitsu is, a great thing for you to build relationships. It's a great tool for you to build relationships. Because what else are you going to be that you're going to have a cop, a doctor, a politician on the same room out trying to beat up each other? So I think as a Jiu-Jitsu athlete, you have a great tool right there to build relationships and find people that you can help them and it can help you in different ways and build a relationship, build your circle. So I think that's what I like to do a lot, which is build relationships through Jiu-Jitsu. And man, as I said, when I moved to America, the main thing that I struggled with was the English. I couldn't speak English. So I was trying to figure out ways to learn English. Once I got that done, how can I make my English better? And also start being more comfortable with my English. I'm like, man, I want to meet people. I want to know what they're doing because we're literally here 2 hours a day trying to, choke each other out. Outside of here, like, how can we help each other? How can I help you? I think one thing that you have to be ready to do whenever you want to build your circle is like you have to, be expected to give. I'm always open to give to someone that I trust. If they need me, they can reach out to me, and then I'm going to be more than happy to help however I can. Of course, my skills are kind of limited. I know Jiu-Jitsu, I know how to coach and stuff like that, but if I can help you, I'm here, And I think people seeing that, it helps you, it helps them seeing what you're about. And as I said, Jiu-Jitsu is a great tool for you to, build relationships. And I have met so many great people through Jiu-Jitsu, man. I think that's one of the things that I'm most grateful for in Jiu-Jitsu. Not the titles itself, but, be able to meet people and go places and meet people in those places. And they have such a special place in my life. I have made friends in, I believe, like 4 different continents through Jiu-Jitsu. We didn't speak the same language. English was probably not our first language, but we got connected through this art. And still nowadays, we're friends. And guess what? He has a friend here in California. I met him in Bali, and that's how it goes. So using Jiu-Jitsu as a tool to build relationships, I think that's the key for me.
Jiu-Jitsu is the best networking and social connection tool I've ever found in my entire life. I mean, I've had to go to a lot of conferences and a lot of business meetups. And, a lot of the time they just feel kind of shallow. But Jiu-Jitsu just has something so authentic about it. And the thing I love about Jiu-Jitsu more than anything is that you are going to meet so many different types of people that are completely different from anyone you've ever met before. And it's going to expand your horizons a lot. You tend to kind of gravitate towards people who are similar to you, which is understandable, but it's not really good for you. And where I first really noticed this was during the pandemic. I mean, of course, I couldn't train during that time. The gyms were closed. So really the only social connection I had was through work, which we were doing remotely. And I realized at some point, these people that I work with, they're all just exactly the same as me. They believe the same thing. They think the same way. They have the same dumb hobbies. They, hate the same stuff. And it's just like a bunch of carbon copies, and life is just much less interesting. I love that I can go to Jiu-Jitsu and I can be exposed to all of these different viewpoints. And yeah, you bring up a great point. That's so many different walks of life. I mean, most of the people that I work with in a ton of different capacities now, I met through Jiu-Jitsu. My accountant is my training partner. A lot of the people who help me out with home improvement and stuff I suck at, they're people I met through Jiu-Jitsu. I've hired people through Jiu-Jitsu. I met my wife through Jiu-Jitsu. I wouldn't have the family that I do today if not for Jiu-Jitsu. And I just can't think of anything like that. I mean, I can't think of any other social club or book club or knitting club or anything you could join that has quite the same effect as Jiu-Jitsu in that manner. And after the pandemic especially, that really changed how I think about Jiu-Jitsu. Before the pandemic, my goal was always, how can I develop skills and be better? Like, I want to be able to tap out the version of Steve that I was a month ago. And now, especially being older and being a dad and having kids, and, I'm not a competitor either, that matters a lot less to me. Now I'm always thinking, what did I get out of this class that improved my life? I want to go into Jiu-Jitsu, and I don't care if I tap people or I get tapped. I don't even care if I learn a new skill anymore. I just want to have improved my life or someone else's life, which improves my life just a little bit in that one class. And Jiu-Jitsu does that for you in a way that like spin cycling classes don't do. There's just something about it that I can't put my finger on that is just, it's like magic in a bottle.
Yeah, I think it goes down to the trust part too, Like, are you going to let anyone have your arm fully stretched on the street and tap and, trust that they're going to let go? Are you going to let someone sink a deep choke and, like trust that they're going to let go when they tap? I think not only that, but are you going to stand with a judo black belt and knowing that he knows he'll take you down, but he'll take you down nicely enough where he's not going to hurt you? I think it builds that trust, training with each other, push each other out. Some days I show up to practice, I'm not having the best day. And my training partners, they know about it. And they'll try to push me. They're like, let's go, man. You got this. So I think it builds the circle of trust. And it's not something, it's very hard to be superficial because it's really easy to tell when someone's upset, sad, not having a good day, because you can feel it, So I think that's one of the things that makes Jiu-Jitsu unique. And yeah, it's just like, it's a crazy thing, man. And one of the things that I do with my school is that I'm really big about is making very welcoming, because it changed my life. I'm not going to say it's going to change the person's life whenever they first walk through the door, but I believe that I can positively impact your life, like it can be like something positive in your life. And if it does that, I think that's a big deal. That's something that, is hard to put a price on, like maybe this person just needs a community. Maybe this person just needs somewhere where they feel free to be themselves, where they can like fight against the biggest fears. Their fear is whenever someone grab them, maybe their fear is to be on their back and not be able to stand up. And they little by little deal with that. So I think that's one of my main missions as I think of as Jiu-Jitsu, like teacher and stuff. Of course, I want to make my students good and everything, but how can I help use Jiu-Jitsu and make it like a positive impact or even change in your life?
Yeah, you touched on trust there, and I agree with you completely. I think if you were to rip off all of the layers of Jiu-Jitsu and actually try to describe what is it really? Like, what is this thing that we're doing? It's not really about fighting or self-defense even. I mean, that's important, and that's going to result in match outcomes, but why would someone devote 60 years of their life to this sport, right? It's because of things like trust. It's because jiu-jitsu is a way that allows you to connect with other humans at a very authentic, deep level. And I agree with you completely. If I let someone get behind me and try to choke me unconscious, I have to trust. If I ask them to let go, they will let go and they will care about my health. I also have to trust that if I don't tap out and I do something stupid, that they will care enough about me to take care of me even if I don't take care of myself. If someone chokes me out, I know they're going to let me go right away. They're not going to kill me. That sounds silly. It sounds like Fight Club or something, but it's a very powerful, authentic type of connection. And it's a really interesting way to bond with people. I mean, to give you an example, I'm a desk worker. I've been at jobs before, man. I got to tell you, I've been at jobs where people have come up to me on Monday and said, "Hey, Steve, what did you do this weekend?" And I didn't want to tell them, because I thought in my head, if I tell them more about my personal life, I'm giving them ammo that they can use against me, and it might change their perception of me. And am I really going to get that promotion if I tell this guy that I spent the whole weekend eating chips and playing video games? He's going to think less of me. So I can't tell him the truth. So I've got to lie to him a bit. This is all very normal when you work in an office. You can't lie like that in jiu-jitsu because it's irrelevant. All that matters is physical, direct trust. And man, after you've done a round with someone, it's like you and that person will never have the same relationship again, because you've learned something about them, which is that you can trust them more than almost anyone else, because you literally put your life in their hands and they took care of you, right? What stronger trust can there be? I think that's why it's such a good social glue for sticking people together.
Yep. And it can make each other better for sure. Maybe someone, when they first walk in, they are not very social. They don't have good social skills. And it's crazy what Jiu-Jitsu does. I think I can see that more through the kids. For me, I don't have any kids student that is a big champion yet. And that's not one of the main things I'm thinking about. But what makes me super happy is seeing a kid, which I have seen on my school. Whenever he first walks in, he can barely look you in the eyes, can barely look his training partner in the eyes. Whenever we start people sparring, he wasn't sparring, he was just watching. He would start crying because he was just overwhelmed. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to grapple. Like, these people are going to hurt me. And fast forward probably 5 months, the kid's having the best time sparring. He's looking in the eye. He's engaging class. He's speaking loud. So look how much Jiu-Jitsu help this kid on like realizing that is not it. Like, you can push yourself more and you can be better than this. There's so much there that you can learn and accomplish. So giving confidence to kids, I think that's one of the main things that is fulfilling for me. And doing that through Jiu-Jitsu is amazing, you know? And going back to the trust thing, this week I had Shanji training with one of my students and I asked him, how was it? Did you have fun? He was like, man, it was a really crazy experience because I felt really safe and rolling someone really dangerous at the same time. It was the most safe that I've ever felt. and rolling someone that dangerous. So it's just crazy how it works, right? So yeah, that explains a little bit.
Reminds me of back in the early UFC days. I heard someone commentating on the fights and they said, I don't get why everyone is so scared of Royce Gracie because, I mean, yeah, he's going to win, but he's not going to hurt you. He's the safest person in there, right? He's just going to take you down and tap you out and it's over. You're going to be completely unscathed. It's all of these other lunatics like the sumo wrestlers and the kickboxers and the karate guys you got to worry about because they're in there to kill you, right? I mean, that's just such a beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is unlike a lot of other martial arts, it's about de-escalating, right? It's about coming back down to that place of calm. And that's just such a great thing about it. I think that's part of why it helps build up confidence because you're not in there to try to kill this other person. You're there to try to calm this other person and stop them, right? To make them peaceful again. And that's just for me at least, that's the reason I got into jiu-jitsu instead of one of the striking arts is I just love that aspect of the philosophy of, as Henry Gracie would say, it's the only true self-defense martial art because all of the others are more about self-offense, right? It's about hurting the other person so they can't hurt you. But the beauty of jiu-jitsu is if you do it right, it's the safest thing in the world. That's part of that trust thing going on.
And looking at me, like, as I said, I'm 6'4", 260 pounds, black belt, world champion. I love to trick people. Whenever I walk into a room where I don't usually train, I can see the fear in their eyes. And of course, like they have seen me on my element, on the competition. I have broken a few legs in competition, but that's highest level. So I never ask someone way smaller to me to roll and I'm able to trick them. I love it. I ask them to roll, I'm like, oh, let's roll. And I start the roll right off with a bearing bolo, trying to go to their back, coming up on a leg drag, then I sit again. They're like, oh my God, this is great. Not what I expected at all. So I love to do that. So it makes them understand. I'm like, oh my God, this huge guy rolled me, didn't hurt me at all, rolling the same pace as I. Why would I hurt someone else with rolling? So sometimes it makes people realize that you can always be nice. You can always rely on technique more. Of course, just like you said, we're not here to hurt each other. We're right here to help each other get better through training. Push each other, and that's how it goes.
Balancing all of this out here, that mindset, do you think that is common for high-level competitors like yourself? Because, I mean, I got to say, you look on social media sometimes, and a lot of people, they're talking about how I'm going to go in there and fight to the death and kill this person. And a lot of that is probably bluster, or they're talking themselves up, or they're trying to hype the fight. I get it. But do you think coming into high-level competition from a place of kindness and trust like that, is that something that you're able to do? Or when you go in there to compete, are you like, I'm in there to break legs?
Kind of both. Yeah. Like it's hard to, of course, something that I always do before my fights, just ask myself, say a little prayer, ask for me and the guys that are competing to not be hurt or anything. But it's highest level, like you can control. I think like everyone that beats me, they're surprised because how calm and like nice I am because of I'm this big guy. But I have to channel my inner, big man flow monster to, go out there and go on my right mind and be really competitive, because I care, during training, there's something that I probably do more, like I pace myself down. I'm the biggest guy in the room. Sometimes even at the comp training, if I'm rolling someone smaller, how can I adapt to my body and my style right now to make this the best roll ever? I'm huge. If I go someone smaller, I just lay on top of them. I didn't do much. They didn't do much either from that training. And they don't want to roll me next time because they already know what to expect. So maybe if someone is smaller, I'll let them take my back and see if I can escape, because it's really hard to escape a back take from someone that is skilled and smaller than you. So how can I make this session the best for me and for you? So I use that a lot for my training, but when it comes to competitions, it's go time. I have to channel those dark thoughts and like go out there, because jiu-jitsu nowadays is crazy. The jump that we have had, of course you always have had a lot of like high level athletes, but one thing that I noticed nowadays is people are moving from blue to black, fighting, proving a lot in a really fast pace. I think a great example, I could be wrong, but Mika Gavon, I think he won 2019 Worlds as a blue belt juvenile. And then I think 2021 or 2022, he won as a black belt. So such short amount of time, the kid's already driving a black belt. That's the thing about it. People are getting good very fast. And, my division is full of good guys. So I have to, score how I can. Be competitive, bring my best version. And yeah, I mix a little bit of that, but when it comes to competition, it's business,
Absolutely. Now, do you have any tricks for flipping the switch like that? I hear people talk about this all the time, where they say they really struggle with hesitation or being passive, or they just can't flip the switch. And where this comes up a lot is people who are generally quite peaceful and maybe they're doing jiu-jitsu as a hobby and they'd never really done anything like this before. And now for the first time in their life, they're in a competitive sports environment and they struggle to kind of go into fight mode. And on the other hand, some people who are competitors obviously struggle to turn fight mode off. And you see this where they're kind of always in this heightened sense of aggression and anxiety, and that's not good for your mental health or your friendships. So I know that a lot of people have tricks or triggers or rituals. I mean, Rafael Lovato Jr., I know he did a whole series of social posts about this a while ago. He talked about music that he listens to kind of get into the zone. What do you do when it's time to go from like friendly business Victor to world champion Victor and back? Do you have any procedure or rituals that you do that help with that? Or is that just something that you can kind of do on your own?
Definitely the usual, music and stuff totally helps. But I'm really big on my underdog story. Whenever I first started training jiu-jitsu, I always tell the people this story. I probably have told this story more than one podcast. If you walk into the room and you have to choose someone, everyone that was in class would become at least like a black belt or pro belt jiu-jitsu, you'd never pick me. I would probably be number 20 out of 20 kids. So for me, having that underdog mentality kind of helps me like to think that I have to go out there and show what I'm about and show that I'm here to show that I have the best jiu-jitsu and take each opportunity as a last opportunity, I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this for. I don't know when I'm going to have the next chance to fight this guy that I'm going to fight right now. But I'm going to go out there and show what I'm about and, show my best jiu-jitsu and show the work that I've been putting in consistently on the gym out here. And having that with the mindset mixed with like having fun, I try to think also like, man, these people all here to watch me. How amazing is this? How can I make their night even more amazing given their show? Showing my jiu-jitsu, being bold, attacking and all that. So that's the things that I try to think of. A lot of times I land on the city that I'm going to fight, then I'm right on the mindset. A lot of times I have to kind of like fire the mindset. But usually I like to bring the mindset closer to the fight because it can be consuming. You don't want to be like on this state of like a state of anxiety that you want to go like 5 days prior to the competition. You're probably going to be stressed by the time you compete. Prior to the competition, probably like the beginning of the week, I'm not even thinking about the fight yet. I'm watching TV shows, I'm hanging out with my friends, making jokes. But the closer we get, the more serious I am, the more, alone time I need to, reorganize my thoughts, see what I've done through this camp. Because I think as an athlete, your ability to adapt and forget things, think about the next task is a big thing. That's something that makes one of the things that could make an athlete great. So sometimes you forget how much you worked. The mornings that you went, that you almost like couldn't move and you went and train. That goes like, you forget about it so fast whenever you're about to compete. You only think about, oh man, is that guy good? Is that guy better than, like a lot of people think that way. But the way I think is like, man, let me go back and see what cookies I have in my jar here. What was the hardest moments during this camp that I've been through? If that is not enough, let's go back all the way to whenever I was in Brazil, asking for a chance to move to America and eventually compete at least at an open here. Now I'm like headlining those big events. So I can go back very long, very far away and like pump myself up. So there are many ways I can pump myself up, but that is probably one of the ways that I like the most.
Amazing, man. Well, let's talk about the future here. Let's talk about your gym. I mean, and if people want to train with you, by all means, let's plug this. Where are you located? What's the gym like? And, you talked about culture. Tell me about the kind of culture that you guys have in the room there.
Yeah, so my gym is located in the Lake Travis area. It's the west side of Austin. We've been open for over a year, and that's mainly where we are about, the culture in the community. Of course, I'll probably change my mind at some point. I don't know, but my main goal right now with Jiu-Jitsu, with my Jiu-Jitsu school, is being able to provide a safe environment, make everyone feel welcome, and see how Jiu-Jitsu can help them in their life. Just need a little bit of flexibility. Maybe you're a huge jack dude, you're confident in everything, but if you ever fell on your back, you don't know how to stand up properly, you probably, get hurt. So maybe just need to learn break falls. And whenever you learn those break falls, you learn also how to enjoy Jiu-Jitsu and find more benefits than just that one that you just had. So that's how my gym goes, like my school goes. I would say we have more masters there. Everyone there is average between 30 and 50, just having a great time. Come in, have the best session. I also am really big on like trying to make the best out of the class. Make sure you break a sweat, make sure that you feel good, and you go on in your day. I don't want to kill you. I don't want to use the practice to kill because I know you have to go back to your family, you have to go back to your business, you have to go back to run the things that you have to do. So for me, it's like that little getaway from people. That's what I think of like my school. Like, what is it about? Like, I need to get away to do this thing for 1 hour and it's going to make me feel better. It's going to make me feel refreshed, replenished to my day. So that's what I think of. And for kids, I'm really big on like building the confidence. Competition is not my main thing right now. I just want to see how much I can help kids on being more confident. Social skills, stand up for themselves. I know the anti-bully thing is a really big thing sold in jiu-jitsu schools nowadays. I don't even know how the kids going to perform the jiu-jitsu during the bully thing, but I think it goes back to their confidence. If you can be confident, if you can look someone in the eyes, you can speak up for yourself, you're probably not going to be a target. So build the confidence and also while having fun. I started training jiu-jitsu really late. I was 14 years old whenever I first started training jiu-jitsu. But one thing that I noticed is whenever I move on to the juvenile divisions, I would fight those blue belts. And I would feel that they wouldn't have as much fun as me because I was 3 years in and everything was new for me. Like even though I was competing a lot as a blue belt juvenile, it was my first worlds. We had the worlds in Brazil, my first Brazilian nationals. And those kids that have been doing it since they were 5, I just felt a little like worn out thing from them. Like maybe they competed too much when they're young. Maybe there's too much pressure and they're all kids. We're all 16. So one thing that I'm really big of for my kids program is for them to have fun. Have fun when learn the art of jiu-jitsu and also build their confidence. Of course, I learned a lot of that mindset with Kabir. I have some other guys that I like to ask questions to, but that's how I could speak of like my vision as far as like a teacher and a business owner about my school nowadays. I think probably not something that people expect because since I'm a world champion and competitor, they probably think that I'm running camps there, like I'm running like hell weeks and stuff there. You're going to walk in, you're going to pay 1,000 push-ups, you're going to roll 10 rounds of 10 minutes. That's probably what people would think of. But my vision as far as like teaching is just a little bit different from that.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'll put a link to your school in the show notes. So if anyone is in Austin, Texas and wants to train with one of the best big guys in the world, I mean, if that culture appeals to you, as I'm sure it does to most people, just go in there and click and follow the link. What about on the content side? You mentioned that you had a lot of stuff coming up on the pipe. Do you want to plug that now too?
Yes, I just came out with my new website platform, VH Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going to be posting a lot of my stuff there. I've been watching matches from brown belt to black belt, seeing little things that I've done for the past 6 years in the highest level with me working and try to, since I started working, with actually teaching as my job, I believe I've evolved a lot on my ways of teaching. So that's what I'm going to do with that online platform. If you ever want to learn from me, learn my moves, learn about my style, I'm going to be posting a lot of content there on vhjiu-jitsu.com.
Nice. Amazing. So if you are 270 pounds and you want to learn how to play inverted guard, this is where you go to do it. So again, I know sometimes it's hard to pull this stuff out through a podcast because people are probably driving or on the bus right now. So I'll make it easy for people. I'll throw all of those links in the show notes for this episode. So if you want to learn more about how to follow Victor, how to go train with Victor, how to learn from Victor through his content, all of those links will just be in your podcast player. Go to info, description, whatever it's called, and I'll just pop them there. I'll also put a link to our stuff. Everything we make is at bjjmentalmodels.com. Well over 250 hours of free audio content on there. All of it's intended to be timeless and educational with Victor and a lot of his friends as well, including Rafael Lovato Jr., Sanjay Ribeiro, Kabir Bath. We made a bunch of stuff there. And of course, that's also how you can get our premium service. That's where you can get direct coaching from us, access to our entire audio course library. Ton of value there. First week's free, bjjmentalmodels.com. But Victor, man, thank you so much. I can't tell you enough how awesome I think this conversation was. I love to get your perspective. Again, you're always welcome here. Thanks so much for coming by and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you. I like how you mentioned that if you're over 240 and you don't feel embraced or any of the groups, I invited you to join the Big Man Flow. That's the thing I've been running. I have a lot of merch, Big Man Flow. If you're that guy, you're big, but you're technical, and you want to represent your style of jiu-jitsu, check out Big Man Flow for some of my merch. And that's it. Thank you, Steve. It was an amazing conversation. I definitely want to come back and talk about different things. And I hope everyone enjoyed this podcast.
Man, I am so glad to have you here. Thank you again. And thanks to the listeners as well. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.